John from Digital Foundry here with a look at the performance of Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Running at a native 1080p, Gears of War Ultimate operates with a split performance profile. That means 30 frames per second for the campaign and 60 in competitive multiplayer. This is the result of the Coalition's push for extra graphical detail throughout the campaign. Gears of War set the bar extremely high when it was launched in 2006, so it's no surprise that visual quality would be prioritized over performance in its remake. While we would have loved to have seen 60 frames per second during the campaign, the sacrifice would likely have been too great. At least we have the PC version to look forward to. We discussed this point with members of the team this year at Gamescom, and were told that 30 frames per second was always the objective for the campaign. Thankfully, the frame rate holds steady at 30 most of the time. The majority of combat sequences play back with nary a hitch. While dips are kept to a minimum, there are instances where we see it slip just below the desired performance level. When this occurs, torn frames are introduced along the top 25% of the image. These instances are uncommon and difficult to spot during normal gameplay, thankfully. This is, of course, a significant improvement from the original 360 version. On 360, slowdown and torn frames were a common occurrence in nearly every major combat sequence. Unlike the Xbox One version, tearing can manifest throughout the image on 360, resulting in a less consistent overall presentation. In this combat sequence, for instance, the improvements become extremely evident. Controller response is consistent on Xbox One, and the presentation remains fast and smooth. Sequences with a lot of alpha effects tend to suffer on both platforms, but clearly Gears Ultimate is still a huge improvement over the original game. Much of this area operates below 30 frames per second on Xbox 360, while only a handful of torn frames are visible on Xbox One. Of course, when we jump over to multiplayer, the jump to 60 frames per second is very refreshing indeed. Throughout our play session, performance generally maintained the expected 60 frames per second. There are occasional duplicate frames that pop up from time to time, but most issues are limited to occasional bouts of tearing. As with the single player, torn frames manifest along the top 25% of the image and tend to occur primarily around explosions and other similar alpha effects. Thankfully, the dips are minor enough so as not to negatively impact the gameplay. Seeing how well the game performs in multiplayer, the fact that slowdown does occur during the campaign at all is a bit disappointing. That's all for now. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. In the meantime, I'll leave you with a bit of extra footage to enjoy. Until next time.